Does that indicate this is an indicator well beyond Wisconsin?
Well, it's not the only game in town, but it's the biggest game in town, certainly tomorrow. And look, Wisconsin is the fulcrum state. It's the ultimate swing state. It's often the state that puts a presidential candidate over the 270 votes needed to win election. That's why we pay so much attention to Wisconsin. And because Wisconsin is so competitive and close, it tends to reflect the moment in politics. Has the moment become more Republican? Has the moment become more Democratic? Or is it about the same as it was last November? We'll find out tomorrow. I will say the spending is probably the most memorable part of it, in that both the Democratic and Republican nominees for the court take exactly the positions you would expect them to have for a Democrat and a Republican. So not a lot of surprises there, but 22 million plus Elon Musk has spent on this race. I mean, look, in the old days, I remember when presidential elections were run for less than $22 million. So here we are.
Pretty remarkable when you consider the dollar signs here, Larry. What do you make about what Elon Musk just said, though? There is some truth to it, right? You give away a couple of $1 million checks, media goes crazy. Like he said, they'll run it on every news channel. It would cost 10 times more to buy coverage like that. Is he the new king of earned media?
Well, he's right in saying that. It has gotten an enormous amount of attention. It did in Pennsylvania when he did this in the general election last fall. So it works. But of course, there's a plus and minus to it. Some people are paying attention, but they're turned off by it. Other people are paying attention and they just wish they had been the $1 million winner, but they probably also are supportive of the candidate that Musk chooses.
I want to talk about a different candidate, and that's Randy Fine in Florida's 6th congressional district. Of course, he is the Republican nominee to fill the seat vacated by Mike Waltz, who left Congress to be the national security advisor. Waltz won his seat by more than 30 points in November. Donald Trump's margin of victory in this district was also 30 plus. And yet Randy Fine is not outpolling his Democratic challenger by those kind of margins, Larry. Is there actually a chance that this seat gets flipped?
Oh, sure, there's a chance. I don't think it's enormous, but you wouldn't rule it out the way you normally would in a plus 30 Republican district. I'll still be shocked if the Democrat wins, but the Democrat has raised, I think it's over $10 million to $1 or $2 million for the Republican. Now, part of it was the Republican took this seat for granted, and you can understand why. You know, a plus 30 Republican district shouldn't even be in contention. So, you know, I get it, but it's a reminder to candidates never, ever to take any race for granted.
Well, so what do you make of this, though? Is it a candidate story, Larry, or is there more happening here, a shift in the electorate that's causing people like us to ask you questions about this special at the beginning of April? Everyone's looking for an indicator. This is something bigger.
Well, yeah, look, it's both. Obviously, there's another seat open, Matt Gaetz' seat, the former nominee for Attorney General who then left Congress and is off doing other things. And the Republican candidate there in another plus 30 Republican district is going to win easily. And that's because that candidate didn't take the race for granted and is also very well known and popular, has been in statewide office. So, you know, we'll see how much of this is, I wouldn't even say anti-Trump. Florida is now very strongly pro-Trump and pro-Republican. So it's a question of whether the Republican comes anywhere close, Randy Fine comes anywhere close to winning by 30 points. I doubt it, but, you know, the voters have surprises for us. Most of the readings have him up by about a third or a half of the regular margin. Now, whether he meets that percentage, I don't know. We'll all find out together.
Well, if you don't necessarily see Florida as being a referendum on President Trump, Larry, would it be a misreading of Wisconsin as a referendum of Elon Musk?
Oh, sure. Elections are never that simple. There are always multiple reasons why one candidate wins and the other candidate loses. A professor of mine back in the 18th century said to me, the simple act of voting is actually extremely complex. And it is. It's a simple act. You check a box or push a button or whatever. But the reasons why you do it are tied to lots of issues and party identification, obviously, but also the conditions that are prevailing in the country, the state, the district at that moment.